Close your eyes. Picture a Spartan. You see a chiseled warrior, abs of steel, a flowing red cape, standing defiant against a tide of enemies. You hear a battle cry about glory and honor. This image, courtesy of Hollywood and romanticized history, is one of the most successful pieces of propaganda of all time. Now, open your eyes and let's get real. If you were a Spartan warrior in training, you wouldn't be a hero in the making. You would be a victim of a brutal, lifelong, state-sponsored child abuse program designed not to create heroes, but to forge unthinking, unfeeling cogs for a relentless war machine. Welcome to What If You Were, the channel that takes your favorite historical fantasies and smothers them in the mud of reality. Today, we explore an education system so horrific, it makes a modern military boot camp look like a luxury spa. Your journey, or rather, your ordeal, begins at birth. You are not welcomed into a loving family. You are presented to the elders of your tribe, the Crucea, for inspection. They examine you like a piece of livestock, checking for any physical defects or signs of weakness. If you are deemed unfit, you are not sent to a special needs facility. You are taken to a chasm known as the Apothetai near Mount Taygetus and left to die of exposure. Congratulations, you passed your first test by simply being born healthy. This is the peak of Spartan compassion. From this moment on, you do not belong to your mother or father. You belong to the state of Sparta, and your only purpose is to serve and die for it. For the first 7 years of your life, you live at home, but this is no ordinary childhood. Your mother is not there to coddle you. She is your first instructor in the Spartan way. You are taught to endure pain without crying, to not be a picky eater, to not fear the dark or solitude. You are intentionally left alone, ignored, and hardened. There are no bedtime stories, no comforting hugs after a fall. Your upbringing is a calculated process of emotional neglect, designed to toughen you up before the real nightmare begins. You learn that affection is weakness and comfort is a trap. These are the good old days you'll look back on, which should tell you everything you need to know about what I see coming next. At the age of 7, your childhood officially ends. You are forcibly removed from your home and enrolled in the... This is not a school. It is a machine for breaking boys and rebuilding them into soldiers. You are inducted into a barracks with other boys your age, a herd known as an adjutant. Your head is shaved. You are given one single piece of clothing, a rough cloak called a phoenicus, to wear for the entire year, winter and summer. You sleep on a hard floor. On a bed you make yourself from reeds. You have to snap with your bare hands from the riverbank. Shoes are a luxury you are not afforded. You are barefoot always, to toughen your feet for marching over any terrain. Your life is now a communal existence of relentless hardship, entirely controlled by older boys and state-appointed instructors. The most infamous aspect of the Agoge is the food, or rather, the lack of it. You are kept in a state of perpetual, gnawing hunger. Rations are intentionally insufficient. The goal is to make you lean, tough, and, most importantly, to encourage you to steal. Stealing food is not a crime in Sparta. It's a critical part of your curriculum. It teaches stealth, cunning, and risk assessment. However, getting caught stealing is a grave offense. If you are caught, you are not punished for the theft itself, but for your incompetence in being discovered. The punishment is a severe whipping. So, you learn to be a proficient thief, sneaking into farmhouses, kitchens, and storerooms to survive. Your morality becomes warped. Survival is the only law, and getting caught is the only sin. This system creates not honorable men, but cunning, ruthless survivors who trust no one. Part 2, the Crucible of pain and fear. As you grow into adolescence, the Agoge only becomes more brutal. The physical training is relentless. You run, you wrestle, you practice with javelins and swords. Fights between boys are not just common, they are encouraged. Instructors will actively pit you against your friends, forcing you to fight for their amusement and to establish a brutal pecking order. Showing pain is the ultimate failure. You learn to take a punch, a kick, a chokehold with a stoic expression. Weakness is beaten out of you, literally. Any sign of cowardice or hesitation is met with immediate and violent correction, not just from the instructors, but from the older boys in your barracks, The Aranis who have absolute authority over you. They are your drill sergeants, and your role models, all rolled into one terrifying package. One of the cornerstones of your education is the development of laconic speech. Spartans were famously men of few and often bitingly witty words. This wasn't a natural cultural trait. It was beaten into you. If you gave a long-winded answer to a question, you were punished. You learned to be precise, to think before you spoke, and to use humor as a weapon. It was another tool of psychological hardening, forcing you to control not just your body, but your mind and your tongue. The peak of this culture of endurance was the annual festival at the sanctuary of Artemis Orthia. Here, the cheese was placed on the altar, and the boys had to try and steal it while being whipped by adults. This wasn't a light ceremonial whipping. It was a life-threatening ordeal. Boys would be flogged, sometimes to death, in this public ritual, all while their parents, including their mothers, stood by and cheered them on, yelling at them to endure. It was a public spectacle of child abuse, framed as a sacred rite of passage. It was the ultimate test of your brainwashing, your ability to endure unimaginable pain for the sake of Spartan honor. But the most sinister part of your training, the final exam in your journey from boy to monster, was the Crypteia. This was Sparta's secret police, a select group of the most promising young trainees sent out into the countryside with nothing but a dagger. Your mission, to live off the land and under the cover of darkness, to hunt and murder The Helots were the slave class of Sparta, a vast population of conquered people who did all the farming and labor and who lived in a state of constant terror. The Crypteia was a tool of state terrorism, designed to keep the Helot population subjugated by randomly killing the strongest and most defiant among them. This was your graduation ceremony. You learned to kill an unarmed, unsuspecting person in cold blood. You learned to see a whole class of people not as human beings, but as animals, to be called. Let's pause on that. You are a young man, perhaps 17 or 18 years old. You have been brutalized and starved your entire life. Now, you are given a knife and told that to prove your worth, to become a true Spartan, you must stalk and murder a helpless farmer who is simply trying to get home to his family. Your instructors are watching. Your future in the Spartan hierarchy depends on this. What do you do? Do you become a murderer to graduate into this society of killers, or do you refuse, knowing it will make you an outcast for life? Let me know where your moral compass would point in the comments below. Parte 3. The human component of the war machine. If you survive the Agoge and the Crypteia, you are finally a soldier, but you are not yet a full citizen. At the age of 20, you must be elected into a military mess hall. This is a group of 15 to 20 men with whom you will eat every meal for the rest of your life. They are your new family. Acceptance is not guaranteed. If you are blackballed by even one member, you are rejected. And if you are rejected, you become an outcast, a second-class citizen, stripped of all honor. All those years of pain and suffering would amount to nothing. The social pressure is immense. Your entire worth as a human being is judged by this small group of your peers. Once accepted, you finally get to be a real soldier. You are now a hoplite. You are given your equipment, the tools you were born to wield. First is the aspis, the large concave shield made of wood and bronze. It is incredibly heavy, weighing nearly 30 pounds. And it is your single most important piece of gear. It is not just for your protection. Its left side is designed to protect the man standing to your right. Then comes the spear, the dory, a 9-foot-long weapon with an iron tip and a bronze butt spike. This is your primary weapon. The short sword, the xiphos, is a last-ditch weapon for when the spears have broken. You wear a bronze helmet that severely limits your hearing and vision, bronze greaves to protect your shins, and a bronze cuirass for your chest. All told, you are carrying over 70 pounds of equipment. You are a walking tank. And what was the purpose of this entire lifelong brutalizing process? It wasn't to create individual super soldiers like in the movies. It was to create the perfect, unquestioning component for the phalanx. The phalanx was a military formation, a wall of overlapping shields and projecting spears. Its strength was not in individual heroism, but in collective discipline. All your training, all the beatings, the starvation, the psychological torment, it was all designed for one purpose: to ensure that when you stood in that line, shoulder to shoulder with your brothers, with thousands of enemies charging at you, you would not break. You would not run. You would hold the line. Your individuality had been systematically erased so that you could function as a single, unified part of a human meat grinder. So, what if you were a Spartan warrior in training? Your life would be a testament to human endurance, but it would not be your own. You would be a product of a cruel and merciless system that valued the state above all else. You would be psychologically scarred, emotionally stunted, and indoctrinated to see the world as a binary of Spartan and non-Spartan, with the latter being utterly expendable. The glory of Sparta was a lie, built on the broken bodies of its children and the terrorized backs of its slave class. So the next time you feel overwhelmed by a tough day at work or school, just remember, at least your education didn't involve being whipped to near death over a piece of cheese or being sent out to murder innocent people as a final exam. Did you enjoy this trip into the impossible? Check out our other videos here, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next What If You Were.